but there's no ifs, ands, buts, or maybes. Oh, hang on a second. I think that sounds in my head.
What sound?
This is the second time today. I'm like, wait a minute, there's a loud pitched squealing noise. And then I did this and it went away. Really, folks, he's fine. He's got health insurance. Don't worry. Everything will be swell. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is your Backstage episode of Right Angle. And I was just discussing with the boys before we came on here that this week I found a gizmo that allows us to transfer or copy all the videos we have on YouTube for BillWhittle.com over to BitChute. And if you don't divide those two words in the correct place, you get a word that you were not intending to say. But at BitChute, they host videos, and the idea is to get away from the YouTube censorship, demonetization, the algorithm that's marginalizing conservative voices and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, but it's not as advanced as YouTube is, and as a consequence, when the import happened, it imported 2 years worth of videos as if they had all been made on the same day.
Oh no!
The same couple of days. So
that
anyway,
was a tough day. I remember I was working my butt off there.
It was a big day. So anyway, as a consequence of that, I stumbled upon an old video that was the teaser trailer that we made for Right Angle when we first started out. This actually was recorded before we did our first recording session after we left the old employment and moved to this new platform. Yes. Steve and Bill both look like they're 12-year-old boys. And I
not
pretty
the
much
empty husks of people that we are today.
I look pretty much the same as I do now, but 50 pounds lighter. So, but in any case, it's like this little 4-minute clip. I was so enamored of it and charmed by it that I decided to post it to the private conservative enclave we call the Bill Whittle member blog at BillWhittle.com. So those of you who are members will be able to see that there. And if you're not a member and watching this right now, stop it. STOP space IT. I'm Scott Ott with Bill Whittle and Stephen Green. Steve's the one who dressed up for the occasion. And because of that, he's going to get to host this week's extra burdensome episode. Stephen, what would you like to talk about on this week's episodes of Right Angle?
Man, I knew I should have worn a crappier shirt.
And I'm going to write it down this time.
This is what I get. Okay. Oh, you're going to write down the topics?
Yes.
Write this down.
I wait with bated lead.
Lightning round.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I don't even have to write that down.
Nope. Although you're going to have to get some more Roman numerals.
Oh, that's right. We're out of Roman numerals.
We're out. I think maybe just, some good old-fashioned Arabic numerals. Just to I don't know. Is there an online converter, real numbers to Roman numerals? That'd be nifty.
Nope, we're doing Roman numerals until the Messiah returns and we have to reset the calendar. That's my
all right,
my
Roman numerals it is.
I think
there's
you
a
should
Cyrillic
use the
version of Roman numerals.
Yeah, you should use the Arabic numerals because every great advance in science and mathematics was
done by Arabs and Islamic scholars. I'd forgotten about that. Yes, excellent. Thank you.
And NASA has been working on discovering those great miracles for the last several years.
They're working hard on that. So you know what I'm doing for the members-sponsored episode. Is that what we're calling it now, members-sponsored?
That sounds good to me.
I like
because we have this great new flood of members and they don't realize that they're sponsoring this. Steve, can you give them just a brief description of what lightning round means?
I will. Okay, so we've been doing members-only special segments. We rotate through. One of us does one of them every week for as long as we've been doing this. But by popular acclaim by our paying members, they keep saying you got to release this members-only stuff to the general public. So we're releasing it to the general public. And by
popular acclaim, Steve means relentless badgering.
Yeah, pretty much relentless badgering. Yeah. It got nasty. I won't lie to you. So now it's not members-only content because our members said, hey, everybody should see this because apparently they don't like other people. And so now it's members-sponsored content, I guess, is what we're going to call that. And a lightning round is when I take stories that might not be big enough to do an entire segment on or too weird to do an entire segment on. And I have a team of artisans who hand-pick these stories in the first
Curated.
morning light.
That's right.
It's really quite a process to see. And then I run these headlines past Bill and Scott, and hilarity ensues, or sometimes, even an informed discussion.
I'm
Seems
just trying to
unlikely.
think of if we have ever done an episode that was too substantial for lightning round. Like, have we ever done another? Because you're basically making it seem like you've chosen sort of lightweight topics that we couldn't do a show on. I
Sometimes
think we could
yes.
do a show.
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. It's a
Okay.
grab bag. It's a mystery box. It's a mystery wrapped in a riddle covered in nacho cheese
enigma.
sauce.
Like, why don't they ever have grab boxes? Oh, I think candidate Trump got in trouble for that. Anyway,
we can't do that.
so Steve, then there's another episode that we referred to, by the way, a little insider baseball talk here. We referred to the other episode as just G. We call it G.
G. Yeah. It's for good.
It's the good one.
No, it's for green. Yeah, and for
Gratuitous.
I want to do an Independence Day special. Happy birthday, America! How are we doing? It's I always liked that about Ed Koch when he was mayor in New York City. He just bumped into people on the street, and he always had the same question: "How am I doing?" And he wanted, real feedback from New York City voters. I don't think it affected his policy just one bit, because he kind of ran the city into the ground. But he was looking for that feedback. And, there's so much bad news out there right now. Antifa is running Portland and beating up reporters and all sorts of things. Oh, and there was that Gallup
And that's
poll.
just the elected members of Antifa. That's the ones who are on city council.
And what really brought this to
I
mind
would
was
send in the army.
this Gallup poll showing that American pride, how we feel about the United States, is at a new low, and it's actually under 50% for the second year in a row. And I want to talk about that. How are we doing really as a country? What kind of shape is America in on birthday number 243? Can that be
I was
right?
told there would be no math.
243.
So now that was the one that was on the top of my
The
list.
sequential is coming up, or whatever.
Yeah.
The what?
The quasentially centennial, whatever the 250-year anniversary is.
Yeah, I think we need to go back to Roman numerals. I can't say that.
My grandfather was at the sesquicentennial celebration in Philadelphia, the 125-year celebration.
Wow.
So I actually know a man who was like at a parade for the 125th anniversary.
And here we are coming up on double that.
And by the way, I don't know if we should save this for the episode or not, but there was, let me just say this here, because I doubt it'll come up during the episode. So President Trump is trying to make a much more American celebration for Independence Day on July 4th. And twice this morning, I heard newscasts on the radio. You know how they recycle the news? Like, as long as nothing changes, they'll play the same news a half an hour later. And twice I heard the newscaster say at the end of the newscast, M1A1 Abrams tanks and a Bradley fighting vehicle were seen on the outskirts of Washington, D.C. this morning, loaded on a transport truck just outside of Washington, according to witnesses.
Oh, my goodness.
And I'm like, that was the story. Now, it happened that I had read about this and knew that the reason why the tanks and the Bradley fighting vehicle are there is because they're part of the parade that's going to happen on the mall. But the news story did not mention the parade. It just
This is all
said
part
that
of Trump's plan to steal the presidency. Sorry.
Who does that? What kind of people do a news story that basically say,
wait.
look, there are two major pieces of armament and a Bradley fighting, and they never mention the parade.
Yeah. Mysterious 747 has been seen on this giant parking lot,
That's right.
according to witnesses.
Military-style helicopters were seen landing on the White House lawn today. It just happened to have the president in it.
Yeah.
Maybe we're doomed. I think just the country's getting stupider. Is that?
Yeah,
And
to
a
answer
SEAL team boat was seen proceeding at high speed down the coast of Santa Monica, towing a young black man as I Can't Get No Satisfaction was being played very, very loudly.
We're in the best of hands. Yeah, Steve, I think we have the answer to your episode's question. How are we doing?
We're not getting dumber, but I know our media is. Either that or our media thinks we're getting dumber.
Okay, so I'm going to be gracious and let Bill do his topic next because I have a list of here, and you've already taken one of my topics, Steve, and so I just want to see how many topics can be deleted from my list of 4. I know I'll have one left.
I'll get one of them for you for sure.
Okay, go for it, man.
I want to talk about what Steve talked about too on 4th of July about American Pride, and some of the numbers in that Gallup poll are very interesting. But mostly I want to concentrate on this Nike shoes business. Scratch it off. There you go.
That was number 2 on my list.
So Nike decides that they're going to issue a bicentennial flag, 4th of July issue, with the Betsy Ross flag on the back. Colin Kaepernick, noted American patriot, complains about this. Nike pulls the shoes. But here's the best part. Then Arizona governor tells Nike to pound sand all of the $1 million of incentive that they'd offered to get Nike to move to Arizona. He said, nah, forget it.
We don't want you here.
You made your decision, we made ours, and he's getting a lot of praise for that. Of course, needless to say, as all of you know, because we're in on it, we got the dog whistle frequency. The American flag is a secret code for white supremacy now.
It's very hurtful.
Aye. And then, needless to say, also the second that this was it Doug Ducey, Arizona governor took this awesome stand, New Mexico governor said, "We'll take the jobs that this rancid company wanted to go to Mexico.
We'll burn the Betsy Ross flag.
Bring them here. Burn the Betsy Ross flag in New Mexico all the time." And I looked it up because her affiliation, shockingly, was not listed in the article. But it turns out she's a Democrat.
Whoa,
Betsy Ross?
No, New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grison is
French.
A Democrat, and she's happy to have Nike come there.
Well, it would be unfair to say the Democrats hate America, but they certainly seem to like people who hate America.
You know,
no, it'd be fair to say that. It'd be fair to say they hate America.
What this makes me think of is, when they said, let's take down the Confederate flags from the state capitals where the flag was still flying, in the wake of the church shooting and other kinds of terrible things that happened. It wasn't one of those issues where I was going to stand up on a platform and say, by God, we will have that Confederate flag flying over our capitals. I didn't think it was worth even making a big deal about, because it's just kind of a historical artifact. But on the other hand, I have no love for the Confederate flag. After all, we crushed those losers. But
well, there goes the hard work of the last several months.
That's right.
But please continue.
So anyway, and my apologies to everybody south of the Mason-Dixon line, of which I am now one of you. But anyway, so that, you think, okay, well, what's the loss? It's the Confederate flag, and I really didn't like what it stood for anyway. And now we're saying, well, wait a minute, the flag that Betsy Ross purportedly sewed is now suspect. Well, why is that flag any better than the stars and stripes that we salute now, that flies high over our nation's capital and across the country?
If there'd been I'm sorry, Scotty.
No, I was just saying, it's like, at what point do you stop? Like every icon of anything having to do historically with this country is subject now to being taken down from flagpoles, statues being torn down, names being changed, street names and all that kind of stuff.
Because of 20 people or 100 maybe.
Yeah. They'll stop when they've destroyed the country, so we got to stop then.
Well, okay. Sorry. Anyway, so that's good. Let me see what's left on my list here. Okay, I'll let you guys choose because I have two stories left here that I was looking at. One is that Mexico is having a problem at its southern border housing all the migrants that it is now trying to stop from passing through its country to the United States so as not to trigger tariffs from the Trump administration. So apparently...
Are they getting enough toothbrushes, Scott? That's the main thing.
You'll have to refer to a previous episode of this. Was it Bill Whittle Now or Right Angle?
I think it might have been Bill Whittle Now, but I know one thing. They can certainly see if they can get in touch with the Taliban and get them to send them some extra toothbrushes.
That's right. So we did an episode of Bill Whittle Now called "The Taliban Gave Me a Toothbrush," and it was about the Washington Post trotted out some former hostages of Iran and of the Taliban and of Somali pirates, all of whom said that they had better hygiene products available to them than people in detention centers run by our Customs and Border Protection Agency. So now, since President Trump said basically, look, you got to stop these illegals, Mexico, you got to stop them from coming over our border. So now Mexico has created a National Guard. Apparently they didn't have one before. They've created a National Guard that has set up checkpoints along their southern route, their southern border. And what they're finding is that it's really hard to care for a bunch of people who are passing illegally through your country because they don't have the capacity to handle them. And so this is, of course, a major problem. And the question is, how far south can we push this? Can we
Tierra del Fuego?
I was going to say, can we take it all the way down to the tip of South America?
You don't have to go a whole lot further than southern Mexico. I mean, I don't know what the actual southern Mexican border is, but compared to the northern border, it's minuscule. Yeah, I'd say take it all the way down to Panama, wherever the isthmus becomes the most... the
choke point.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was the one story. And then the other story is the Washington Post is saying that the Democratic Party is in convulsions over the issue of race, as this little exchange that happened during the second Democratic presidential primary debate last week has triggered a major discussion and kerfuffle, as James Toronto would call it, because Kamala Harris called out Joe Biden on the fact that he had previously talked about the comity that existed between him and several segregationist senators in the past. So she made a big deal of that in the debate. And now the Democratic Party is just basically eating each other alive.
Please do that one.
I like both stories. Can you mush them into one somehow?
That's right. Could we take all the Democratic candidates down to the southern border of Mexico and have them live in those places? And this is not to mention, of course, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and a cortege of Congress people who went down to visit the U.S. southern border. That's a perfect word for that, isn't it?
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Cortege.
I like it.
So anyway, apparently she felt threatened by our border staff and began shouting at them and screaming at them, and then later was tweeting about them, and because apparently they had ungodly cruel conditions down there in which we're keeping people, and she felt personally threatened by these men with guns.
That woman is one small concussion away from a Guam is tipping over moment.
I don't think it would require a concussion.
A small one.
I don't think she knows what Guam is, what an island is, or what an ocean is. I think she's well beyond that point.
I think it wasn't Sheila Jackson Lee. Who was it that said that? The tip over of
Hank
Guam?
Johnson.
Hank Johnson.
The best part was the admiral keeping a totally straight face, saying, "We don't anticipate that happening, sir."
That's right. We've taken countermeasures to balance the island to prevent it from tipping over. Anyway, so maybe I'll do this Democratic thing, because I don't know if you guys saw that moment, but this is Joe Biden, for the first time since March or April, has started to slip a little bit in the polls. And the points that he lost in the most recent polls since the second debate, which was, of course, the one he participated in, the points that he lost, Kamala Harris picked up. And so
Awesome.
now she's like in, I don't know, 5 or 7 points behind him in the polls, and there with Elizabeth Warren. Bernie Sanders bringing up the rear for the top 4 at about 9%. I mean, Biden's at like 22%. So these aren't big numbers, but then again, there's 700 people in the race still. Anyway, I just found it fascinating that the party that celebrates its own tolerance and equanimity and color blindness and all of that kind of stuff, the party that has a couple of African-American candidates in the race, even in that kind of an atmosphere, racial division is rife and tearing people apart.
What makes you say they celebrate diversity? What evidence do you possibly have?
I didn't say they celebrate diversity. I say they celebrate diversity.
Very important
beg your pardon.
there.
As an extraordinarily important qualifier that reverses the meaning of everything. I completely understand now. Yes.
I'm saying that they're saying that they celebrate diversity.
I see what you're saying.
What was the middle part again?
Saying.
No, I don't follow.
No. But in any case, I have seen clips of that moment, and people, the mainline Democrats, the Biden people, basically are coming out and saying, "Oh, Kamala Harris, you've gone too far.
Low blow.
You have, you've taken a low blow at a man who did not deserve that." And you don't know all the great things that Joe Biden has done for civil rights, which he, of course, enunciated then after that at the debate. And there was this just tremendously comical moment. We won't get into this in the episode probably, but there was this really comical moment where he is listing all his civil rights accomplishments. And throughout the evening of the debate, nobody paid any attention to the moderators when they tried to cut them off. And Joe Biden's talking, and then all of a sudden he goes, "Oh, my time's up? Okay." And he just stops. And you didn't even hear the voice of a moderator saying, "Hey, Senator or Vice President Biden, whatever." He just, I guess he thought, well, when you're digging a hole, that rapidly, maybe you should stop.
Anytime somebody forces you to defend yourself and you fall into that trap, you made a big mistake. The only answer to that is, who the hell do you think you are? Talking about my civil rights records. I was working for civil rights before you were even thinking about seducing Ed Brown.
I can't say what I'm thinking.
Well, yeah, okay. He should have gone Lloyd Benson there.
That's right.
When he put down Dan Quayle in that, whether or not it was true, very effective way. And Biden could have gone after her because Kamala Harris has a terrible record as a prosecutor, going against brown and black people, saying, I was fighting for civil rights when you were making up evidence to throw black people in jail.
You said she had a terrible, I didn't know much about her background. You said she had a terrible record as a and I thought,
no.
And then it's like,
prosecutor.
So, you have, I said this to one of my colleagues at work the other day. I said, you have a problem when one of your colleagues in the race turns to you and says, "Now, Vice President Biden, I don't think you're a racist."
But
if that's the end of the sentence, you're fine. But even then, oh yeah. That's the first thing out of her mouth. She just basically looked at him and said, "Now, I don't think you're a racist, but
that's nice.
What you said was really hurtful to me personally." And then she goes on to tell this personal story about how there was a little girl in California who had to be bussed across town because of the racial segregation and all that kind of stuff. And that little girl was me.
And it turns out she made up half of her story.
Who could see that coming?
Yeah.
So anyway, the Democrats riven by race. I just like to use the word riven.
I love it. Riven by race, yes.
Yes. So that is it, I guess. And unless there's anything for the good of the order.
We're riven by time.
I think that's all I got.
Riven by race.
Well, we had some whining last week because the episode ran only 25 minutes.
Well, guess where we are today.
Yeah, we're right at 25 minutes. We better put this thing to bed. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you to the members at BillWhittle.com, of whom you are undoubtedly one, for making it possible for us to engage in this enterprise that we love so dearly, about things that we hold as self-evident truths that are crucial to a happy society. We know that you feel the same way too, and we just want to say thank you once again for making this possible. If you got friends who aren't yet part of this little conservative enclave, this refuge from the toxic sewer of social media, invite them to go to BillWhittle.com and click that Become a Member link. So for Bill Whittle, Stephen Green, I'm Scott Ott. Thank you very much.
Hold on, Mark. Don't cut, or whoever. Wyatt, don't cut yet. Scott, I was just wondering if you could possibly, just for the sake of having it immortalized on digital format, could you please read the description of what our typical member probably. I just think people at home will really identify with it if they could hear it out loud. Tell me, ladies and gentlemen, if you're a member of BillWhittles.com, tell me if this essentially to the T is not you.
So this is, by the way, and I didn't tell you, Bill, I'm developing a new feature for the website, okay? So as part of that new feature for the website.
Oh, I don't want to know anything about this.
No, I certainly wouldn't want to tell you that.
There's harm going to come out of that.
That's right. To minimize your interference with your own website, So anyway, as a test thing, I just needed, I didn't want to clip and paste lorem ipsum, blah, 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 the Greeking text. And so I did this little introduction of a member whose name is John Q. Member. And it says, I was born in the Scottish Highlands, a feather of a waif, burdened by limited intelligence and paltry musculature. Nevertheless, I soldiered on to become the champion of liberty that I am today, to the astonishment of all who knew me and all who know me now.
Beautiful. I have a tear.
What is it? What did you say about intellect? Limited intellect?
Limited intellect and paltry musculature. Yes, I believe.
It's the limited intellect that's the actual defining characteristic that gets you into the club. And I just thought, that was just epic. Thank you very much.
So this doesn't exist for nobody can see this yet, but I think if I am able to successfully launch this feature, I think I will leave that there for the benefit.
Oh, absolutely. Future generations should read and ponder those words.
Okay, Mark or Wyatt, you can take it right here. Just